Hey guys and gals, this is your humble producer speaking. Welcome to part 2 of our interview with Dave and Pemba. If you haven't heard part 1 yet, make sure to go back and check that out, or keep yourself in the dark. It's up to you. Make sure to keep yourself up to date by subscribing to the podcast. We also have a Facebook group to help create some discussion around each episode. Let us know your thoughts. That's enough of me, and enjoy the rest of the episode.
So with the restaurant coronavirus, how has that affected your business?
This is probably the toughest things that, I went in last 19 years. As you know, I don't know about where you're at, but in our county, they just announced that we can only serve outside or to go, and that's hard. It's very hard right now because of the coronavirus.
So you were allowed, people were coming back to the restaurant?
Yeah, and people can do for takeout or can sit outside in patio. That's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, yeah.
And I guess the patio situation, it's kind of similar throughout Canada, but you know what? I don't know if you've ever seen this, but I'm not sure which state it was. It was okay to be out, can be inside, but you could be on a patio, but you had to be in a tent.
Yeah,
it's crazy all over the place.
Yeah.
And for us in Boulder, the outside dining is actually, if the weather's nice, of course it works. But the problem is we're heading into the winter and it snows quite a lot, and it certainly gets cold at night. Too cold to sit outside.
Yeah.
And so we have, our industry is just as I'm sure in Canada and the rest of the world. The restaurants have taken it on the chin far worse than anybody else, and it's been devastating.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't talked to anybody who owned a restaurant about this, but marketing wise, do you get in? And I've never talked to anybody that owned a restaurant. I'm curious, how do you market out of this? But do you just sign up with Uber, or do you have billboards up showing that you can order from or get on radio ads? What are you guys doing to help promote the restaurant and getting food delivered, I guess?
Well, we don't really promote. And I've been in a business for over 19 years. We have our regular customers, and they know, they understand, we're in a situation where we can't have people in. So, they order, they do phone call order, or they call the Ubers, or there are others delivering services out there, and they call one of those services. Yeah.
What's your relationship like with the delivery services? I know here there's been some tension between restaurant owners and like Uber Eats or Skip the Dishes, and the pressure that those can put on restaurants.
Oh yeah, it's not easy, but there are quite a few services that we work with, and so far it's okay, not too big of an issue.
The state of Colorado has actually just enacted some legislation about 2 weeks ago, that will provide funds to these delivery services. So they therefore aren't going to charge the restaurant owners for the delivery service. So basically the state will pay the delivery fees, which will help, of course. But the problem is that these restaurants, especially in Boulder, it's very competitive, and it's very competitive rents, and so Pemba's been blessed in many ways. He's as we said, a wise businessman. He owns the building that his restaurant is in, which is a unique thing. Most restaurateurs are renting, which means they're basically closed. They're done. That's it. But it's still, it's killing a lot of people and a lot of businesses. One of our other good friends owns a pizza place here in Boulder, and I've had lots of conversations. He was down 40-50% of his business, and as he said to me when we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago, he said, I'm down 40% or 50%, but as soon as the winter comes, it's done. We're going to have to close, because there won't be any business anymore, But
well, what about climbing? Has COVID affected your climbing?
No, that didn't affect me at all.
No?
Yeah.
No? Okay, so you can still go out with a group, or is it individual? When you go climbing, is it just yourself?
Usually I don't go with a group. Usually with one climbing partner. Yeah, now I have a few good friends that I climb with regularly. So usually there's two people kind of things,
Yeah, and occasionally he goes out by himself. We all
Yeah,
tell him not to do that too.
yeah, yeah.
Go out by yourself and take a fall, and nobody's
Yep.
going to know to help you, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, Pemba, you can't climb by yourself.
Yeah, which I did last month, and I was hurt, but I was okay.
Oh yeah, you had a
Yeah.
fall.
Yeah, in fact last month.
Oh.
Yeah, but I was okay.
See, that's when you said I should have listened to Dave.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yep.
It's not me. Everybody at that restaurant tells him that. It's
Yep.
not unique.
So Hayden, I'm sure you got a couple questions.
Yeah, I mean, it's still just kind of like mind blowing to me that you're able to go from a poverty-stricken village and create this whole infrastructure, and now you're even creating more change and just paying it forward constantly. Like it's pretty amazing. I'm curious, like, I don't like. Did you ever think that you'd be in this situation growing up where you grew up?
No, I never thought about I'd be in this situation, and I mean it's one of the extreme poverty in the world and very harsh conditions. But you know what? I'm glad I grew up there. Despite the poverty and the hardship, because it taught me lots of different things in life. And it was a beautiful place, and it was a very beautiful community where people have little things, but they share each other's. And I actually miss those things. Those community.
Right. And what was your first impression of America? Like when you first came over here, did it take a while to adjust?
Yes, I mean it was very hard because I was pretty much illiterate. I didn't know much, but I'm an entrepreneur, and I have visions and I have sense, and I know there's opportunity for me here, and I can go to school and I can learn and I can do things. So I saw that vision and opportunity, and then that's where I based at here.
Was it something somebody said when you met them guiding about coming to the U.S.? When did you say, aha, I want to go to the U.S.?
That was when I was 19. When I was about 18, I really wanted to come here. I was very curious about the West.
And what drove that curiosity? What was it?
It's simply because the people I'm guiding with, talking with them, like the country, and of course, like, different things. And I know this part of the world is developed and a lot more opportunity. And I really wanted to come out and check it out, see what's out there. Yeah.
Where were you originally when you landed in the U.S.? Where'd you stay?
I first came to San Francisco.
Oh.
There are people I know that I guided in Nepal. Then I came to Colorado. Yep. And it was really good. I knew lots of people that I guided in Nepal. Once I got here, and before I even come here, back then there's not really telephone or email or anything. We exchanged letter that I was coming out here and help me find a job or whatnot.
Okay. So now I'm interested in talking about your chai recipe. Hayden knows I am a foodie. And I want to know why so many people love your product. So it's your grandmother's?
Grandmother. It came from who knows? Many family generations. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
So it's passed down.
Passed down. Yep. That kind of stuff. Yeah. Yeah. People have been drinking this product in that part of the world for thousands of years.
What makes it so different than I hear a lot of people going and having chai? The difference I hear when they have yours, they love it.
I think is the amount of the product that you need to put in, where you process the brewing. It's like any other product, it's like anything else, once that's done perfectly is the one that gonna be good. Whether you're eating steak or, you're talking about pizza. If you burn if you put too much cheese, maybe not that going to be good in the pizza. If you burn the pizza, it's not going to be good, And those people who been in the pizza business for a long time, who know how to make pizza properly, they're the one who gonna make the pizza best,
And I guess it's made still in small batches because it's not available throughout all the U.S. Correct?
No, we have distribution throughout all of Colorado and a little bit into the peripheral states around Colorado. And then now we are being carried in Washington State and in Oregon as well. And we continue to look to expand, and we will. But we do make this in small batches. Here at the factory where we're sitting, behind the office I'm sitting in is the warehouse where they brew, the kitchen where they brew the chai. And we operate 200-gallon kettles. And they basically start at 7:45 in the morning and brew until 5:30 at night, and that's the amount we can produce. So we will. We're looking to expand so that we can increase our production. All of the guys who work back there they're all Sherpa or Nepalese, mostly Sherpa, and in fact now we actually have. Our head of IT is Sherpa. He came over to work for the restaurant for Pemba and has gone on and got a degree in information technology, and he's now our IT guy. So it's been a lot of fun.
So a lot of the people that are employed, you've sponsored coming over, Pemba?
I have, yes.
That's super. I wish there was more people like you. The world doesn't have enough really good people that are service based, and it's hard to find. So congratulations. The other thing that I really want to say, and again, we don't talk brand. I think that Sherpa Chai is an incredible brand story. It's got everything. All the moving parts are there. All the stars line up with the planets. And this is one of the only products I've seen that I do know a bunch of people that have tried it. And David, I mean, just like you, they tried it and they love it. They don't switch. Well, I guess it's almost like the Coke and the Pepsi loyalty, right? But there's nothing like it on the market.
Really isn't. I mean, to some degree, I proved this to myself in the course of the last year because on a regular occasion I've done these blind taste tests. Like when I hired some new sales guys, I figured, look, because these guys are going to be out there, trying to sign up more coffee shops to carry our product. So we lined up all the competitors in a blind taste test with our products, and in every single situation, every single one, the Sherpa Chai products are always the top 3, and nobody else is even close. And I've now done this. I've done this at least 24 times over the last year, and it's always the same. So I know for a fact that this is a unique product. On top of that, I have a wife who is a big chai drinker, always has been, and when she found Sherpa Chai, her first comment to me was, "This is really different. This is not at all like anything I've ever tasted before," and so that was one of the reasons also that convinced me that this is really something unique and special. And so now the goal is that we share this with as many people as we can.
So your wife said this is really unique, and then her second comment was, "Get out of retirement and go work with Pemba."
Something along those lines.
Okay,
Yeah. But I will tell you, in all honesty, we had a birthday celebration for one of the guys for Dealey a couple of months back at a local at another Nepalese restaurant nearby, and Pemba knows the guys. They're all interrelated. Some have worked at his restaurant. Some actually have a part ownership in Sherpa Chai. One of the guys at the other restaurant. So we had the party there, and Pemba was there, and he had been talking about the daughters that he had just adopted, and then Dealey was talking about it, and Holly, my wife, is hearing these stories over the course of the whole night, and that night when we're driving home from the party, that's when she turned to me and she said, "This is why this has been put into our lives." And she fully wants to get involved with sponsoring children in Nepal to help them with their education, etc. I'm certain that once she gets the chance to go in the spring, hopefully that we'll probably be doing some of that in my family, which I think is awesome, and I'm very excited for it. It's. I think I told you, Norm, in the last conversation. I've traveled a lot. I've lived in other parts of the world. I've lived in Europe. I've lived in Germany, England, France, etc., and spent tons of time in places in Latin America as well. And they're all great places, and I love them all. And I would move in a heartbeat to many of them. At the end of the day, I find myself going back to places because it's always the most important thing. It's the people. There a lot of cultures have great history and have great food and all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, it's the people that make the place a place you want to visit again. And when I came back from Nepal, what I told my wife is, we've been spending a lot of time, I told you, in Italy in the last years. And we love it because of all the friends we've made in Italy. And I came back, and my comment to Holly was, the Nepalese people and the Sherpa people, these people are Italians on steroids. These are the most welcoming, friendly people I have ever been around in my life. And I can't, it was kind of game change for me. So it was a wonderful experience, and I can't wait to be able to go back.
Now, with a micro brand, a lot of people don't know the brand. They've never heard of the brand. And you've got to very quickly build a brand story so they can check it out, make sure that that you look like you're a trustworthy source to buy from, and then get them on board. How do you get that story out there? There's so much, but the brand story, how do you get it out to the public?
Well, it's a good question, and it's certainly a challenge for us, being that we are, as you described, a kind of a micro brewery here, a micro chai tea maker. What we're working on is, we have hired a couple of young guys who have been doing sales in coffee shops and growing us that way, so that people will find us in their local coffee shops, hopefully taste it, and then want to buy it at the grocery store. We also work with the grocery distribution channels to increase our distribution. And in this case, the grocery challenge has been, of course, is that we've got to have proof of concept, if you will, right? So we've been able to demonstrate, because our sales numbers have been so phenomenal, that the distributors are coming to us and asking us to go to other regions. For example, Washington and Oregon, most recently. The product in many ways has grown organically and almost grown despite any efforts on the part of us, because it's such an amazing product. But also, we're working very hard to increase our social media platform performances and presence. And we've hired a team of people who know how to grow a consumer packaged goods product, a CPG product. And so the only thing we can do, I think, is the best thing we can do is find some really smart people who can help us in strategic ways to grow the brand kind of systematically, as we don't want to grow too fast, because if you get too far out over your skis, then we're going to end up with, the product will suffer, the flavor profile will suffer. And I really also feel strongly, a lot of people in this industry have talked about the idea of what they call co-packing, which would be moving to another production facility, a big producer, right, who would then produce our chai in their factory and help us to distribute it. And of course, that would allow us to increase our volume dramatically. I am adamant that I want to make sure that this is a place where the chai is being made by Sherpas, and that way it stays authentic and it stays true to the mission. And that flavor profile has, we can't let that be damaged by this. There's too many examples in history. I mean, I can think of half a dozen, most famously the famous Schlitz beer in the 50s and 60s, the number one beer. They took over production somewhere else, changed the flavor, and it disappeared. And this is what cannot happen with this. It has to be the Sherpas that make this and brew this chai. And so as long as we can do that, I think we have a product that will be in high demand, and then it's just a matter of being able to grow our production facility and keeping true to our original plan.
All right. What about ingredients? So you've got certain ingredients. Let's say ginger. There's all sorts of different types of ginger. How do you make sure that you get a specific type of ginger? I know, like, I used to live in Hawaii, so Kona coffee is a lot different than other coffee around the world. If you don't have that specific bean, you're going to have a different flavor. What happens with ginger?
Yeah, so we have a lot of kind of key ingredients. So the first is, the most basic is the Nepalese black tea that we use. This actually is grown on a tea farm in Nepal. The company that produces it is a family-owned tea producing company that's been making tea in this part of Nepal for more than 10 generations. And it's actually called the Nepal Tea Company, and they make a special black tea blend specifically for us. We have run into challenges with on how we get that out of Nepal, especially in the COVID era. So initially, we had a big shipment that was due to leave Nepal in March and fly from Kathmandu to us here, and that got canceled because the airports got closed. Eventually, the tea manufacturer figured out a way to get it onto a ship to bring it to us. But he said the only way that works is if you take a whole container, and we don't have the budget to take a whole container at one time. That's a year's worth of tea, so to speak. So what we did is he said, not a problem. I'll send you the container. You pay for it as you use it, which works. So we were able to get it. It took 5.5 months by ship to get it here, but it got here just in the nick of time because we were about to run out of our earlier orders. Ginger is a really tough one because, of course, it's seasonal between the northern and southern hemispheres. So, in the wintertime, we typically get our ginger from southern hemisphere, from Peru, and in other parts of the year, it's coming from China. All of our ingredients are sourced organically, including all of the spices, the cardamom and the cinnamon, and all the other ingredients that we use in this product. And so that's part of it, making sure we have the best ingredients, and so it can be, as you said, it can be a challenge. We have run into issues with getting product, especially because of the pandemic. But so far, we've been able to stay ahead of that curve and been able to get the ingredients that we need. One of the other things about our chai that is very unique is, we fresh grind all of the turmeric and the ginger that goes into the product. They actually grind this every single day in huge vats that then go into the chai. And I think that that's a large element of why this is, they don't use a powdered ginger, for example. So you get all of the kind of the natural ingredients and goodness from it. And the flavor on the ginger is it's unlike the ginger you get in your grocery store. It's much more powerful and flavorful than anything I've ever tasted.
So I've got a question for Pemba. I don't know if this is true or not, but my wife came in with a bulletproof coffee, and I believe I read that Bulletproof Coffee, the founder of Bulletproof Coffee, actually got the idea while visiting Nepal, where he was basically starving getting to this village, and somebody gave them I think it was a coffee with some form of butter in it. And it was a natural drink that they would give to stabilize fats.
I think the butter tea, maybe they drink a butter tea.
Yes. The butter tea. So it wasn't just part of his brand story. It really happened.
They eat butter tea. They drink butter tea there, yes.
I am a huge fan of Bulletproof. But okay, so interesting story. Incredible story. Your story is incredible, and it's an incredible brand story. I must have said that way too many times during this podcast. But now I want to talk about two different things. I want to talk about some hurdles. I want to talk about some struggles. What have been your biggest hurdles? What did you learn from it? And how did you get out of it?
Okay. Well, I mean, I went through like different phases, and as I was telling you, I was in the adventure business, and 9/11 came in with the Twin Tower and whatnot, and 99% of my clients were all American that I took around the globe. And when that came out, when the 9/11 happened, I mean, that was the biggest hurdle, I think. That was a lesson for me. I didn't also just give up. I studied and did the different things. So, yeah, that was one of the biggest hurdles. And second biggest hurdle is, be honest with you, is right now with the COVID. As far as the business goes, yeah.
Right. So they're similar. All of a sudden people stop traveling. With 9/11, everything came to a standstill.
Yeah.
And then same thing with COVID. COVID on a larger scale, and I don't know when that's going to lift. But yeah, those are some tough ones. But resilience, and like you said, back to the working with mountain climbing, you're a resilient guy. You're studying, you're doing other things that you can come back from this. And one of the things I tell a lot of people, especially younger entrepreneurs, they have struggles, or students, they have struggles. And what keeps them awake at night, sweating and not getting any sleep. I went through all of that. And then I found out 30 years later, 40 years later, that those same things, if they were to come up today, I could kind of just brush them off my shoulders. I wouldn't lose any sleep. And that is, you can't imagine the world in any worse situation as it is right now.
Yeah.
But when we live past this and we know how to survive, it's just going to be one of those struggles that, hey, we stressed about it. We didn't have to. We got through it. It wasn't as bad as we thought it would end up. And we pushed forward. But anyway, two very interesting struggles that you have.
Yep.
They're parallel. Dave, what about you?
If I was to say anything that was a big struggle in my life, it was when I started my first company. We started a software company. We had no money. We basically did this on a bootstrap, and so the challenge was generating enough revenue to support myself, my brother, and our families. I was at that time a dad of two young children, a 3-year-old and a less than 1-year-old, and there were a lot of days and a lot of months when I would have to come back to the house at the end of the day and say, we're gonna have to do something about the mortgage because we can't pay the bill this month. These were certainly tough times, but we were young and resilient, and we were able to get through it. And in all honesty, we didn't have that many expenses, etc. So in hindsight, it was terribly difficult to do. Being of the age that I am now, with a lot more children and a lot more experience, I think, like you, Norm, I don't sweat the kind of things that I used to sweat. But that was probably the biggest challenge in my life, is getting through that first 5 years of the first company. Right. That I did. And then after that, there's a level of kind of financial security that comes from surviving that kind of thing, that allows you to realize, what, we'll get through this, whatever it is. It can't be that bad, right, et cetera. But that was probably the biggest challenge for me personally.
All right, Pemba, David, I'm not sure who wants to go first, but we always ask our guests if they have any quotes that they live by.
I have always thought about, and I think I mentioned this to you before, Norma. There are two quotes that come to mind from me. One is about being kind of a leader in a company, a CEO. And that is a quote by a guy named Ralph Nader, who probably everybody would be familiar with. And what he said is that the goal or the purpose of a leader is to create more leaders, not more followers. And I firmly believe that should be the goal of anybody who wants to be a leader in any organization. Create more leaders. It's going to make your life a lot easier. It's going to help your company to grow. And you have to be willing to obviously delegate as much as you can as a leader, and that creates more leaders because people take on responsibilities that they otherwise might not know that they could do, and therefore it makes the job of the original leader a lot easier. So I would definitely say that's one of my favorite quotes.
Great, yeah. Be a leader. Act like a leader. All right, Pemba. What about you?
Well, I don't know. I think, fortunately, in a life, I think two things is important. It's a patience and the vision.
Yep.
I think those two things are very important.
So having the patience and the vision.
Visions,
Yeah.
whether you're going to get a degree to do something, or you're doing business, or climbing a mountains. I think you got to have anything what you do in life. I think those two things are very important.
Like it.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah, I agree. Now, I understand too, Pemba, that you are an author. Can you talk to me just a little bit about your book?
Yeah, I've been guiding in the Himalayas for the last 30 years, and I've seen good things, bad things, and mostly bad things as far as the environment goes. And how many inexperienced climbers, they go to climb Everest, and how that jeopardize the not only their lives, but also the guides who are helping them, and also the local villagers and whatnot. So, and of course, in Nepal, it's a very poor country, and in that, I believe that's a reason to be poor, because the country been in corruption for many hundreds of years. And so, and I basically put everything together and put it out there, and I believe that those who are going to the Himalayas and go in that part of the world, by reading this book, will benefit them, and maybe give them some awareness, as far as the environment and the safetiness. And that's the main reason I put the book together.
Okay.
Yep.
What's the name of the book?
It's called Bridging the World.
Bridging the World. And
Yep.
where can you get it?
You can get them in the Sherpa Chai website, and will be in Amazon soon too. But you can purchase in the Sherpa Chai website.
Okay, very good. Sounds like an interesting book.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what's that, David?
It's a very good read.
Great. All right. Well, I think we're towards the end of the podcast. Guys, it's been a pleasure having both of you on. How can people get their hands on some Sherpa Chai or get in contact with you?
So they can go to sherpachai.com, which is our website, and there's a shopping page where you can order not only Sherpa Chai product, but also T-shirts. Pemba's book is there as well, and that's the easiest way to get the product if you're not living in Colorado, Washington, or Oregon. And then if they want to get in touch with us, they can send an email to media@sherpachai.com, and that would then come to us directly.
All right. I guess the only bad news there is you don't ship to Canada yet.
Well, I'm hoping that we can have some orders going to Canada before the end of the first quarter of next year. That's what we're shooting for right now.
Oh, great.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, Hayden and I will be on that list, and we'll be ordering some Sherpa Chai.
Great.
All right. So at the end of every podcast, I always like to ask our guests if they know a guy.
I do know a guy who would be interesting. I have a friend. He's a surgeon, and he has written a book called The Invention of Surgery. He's one of the top shoulder guys in the country, and he actually replaced my shoulder completely with all these metal pieces. But he's also a history buff, and he has studied all of the history of modern medicine. And he wrote a book, like I said, called The Invention of Surgery. And he gave me a copy of it right before it was published. And it is a real page turner. It's super interesting. All of the technology developments that went on over the last 250 years to create the modern world of medicine that we live in today. So that's a guy you might want to talk to.
Great. And his name?
His name is David Schneider, Dr. David Schneider. I can provide you with contact information if you'd like.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for being on today. It was very interesting. Again, we went down a path we don't normally go down, but I loved it. So have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.
You too. Thank you. Thank you so much.
That concludes part 2 of our interview with Dave and Pemba. Tune in next week to hear our interview with Brazilian composer, arranger, Dori Caymmi. He's someone who's worked his entire life in the music industry, both in Brazil and in Los Angeles. And odds are you've probably heard his work without even realizing it. Anyway, that's it for me, and I'll see you next time.